Check out the richness of those colors. Wow. They really came out very rich. I love that. It's an autumn walk. Let's call it an autumn walk in the woods or an autumn walk home. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's a walk home in autumn. I painted this card today with the Kuretake paints that I received from Debra. And I'll show you when I take the lid off. There they are. They are really rich, really beautiful. I'm loving them. And I imagine I'll probably be buying them forever. But thank you so much for introducing them to me, Debra, and everybody else. She got them from Amazon. And they are just really wonderful. So Kuretake. But today I want to show you how I painted this. And I was a little bit worried that it wasn't going to come out because it looked like a big mess at first. It always does. It's fun. It's a funny thing. Does the same thing happen to you? Like you're painting a picture and you say, this is horrible, this is horrible, this is horrible. It's one of the reasons why I'm a little bit squeamish, whatever, about painting plein air paintings. Is because you're out there in an open place and there are going to be people walking past. And the people who walk past when you're first working on your painting probably won't come back. So they're going to say to each other, oh my God, that guy doesn't know how to paint. And maybe I don't know how to paint. I don't know. But then you know, the people who show up at the end, they go, oh wow, that looks really nice. That looks really nice. Because paintings, am I right about this? Do you agree with this? That paintings just don't look good in the beginning. They look horrible. And then there's that magical moment where it starts to look like you want it to look. And sometimes it's the subject, and sometimes it's the composition, and sometimes it's the colors. You know? I don't know. I never know. I never ever know. Now, the only exception to everything I say about painting, the only exception is with portraits. Because portraits have to look like the person. I'll tell you a secret with portraits. A secret with portraits is to do several of them first. That is truly the secret. Get your pencil, get your charcoal, maybe even some paint, and do some smaller versions of what you want to do as a portrait. Yeah, take an hour and do a sketch. Because the full portrait is going to take you 30 hours. You know, if you have an oil portrait, easy 30 hours. So, yeah, sketch it out first. Get all of the little details right. And if tracing helps, I don't know why that was a problem. It's not a problem for me. Sometimes there's so many. Listen, think about this for a second. The human face. You got the same stuff going on inside. You got the same skull. You got two eyes, nose, mouth. They're all kind of in the same place, right? And yet everybody looks different. Now twins, that's an exception, but it's amazing how we all look different, and maybe to twins they look different too. If you were to paint me, for example, and look at my face in the monitor here, and you gave me just a little bit bigger eyes than I have, or a little bit weirder or longer smile, or I don't know, there's so many little things that can change as you're painting somebody to make them no longer look like that person. If you ever have two brothers, two sisters who are not twins, but they look very similar to each other, think about what is it that's different. You know one from the other, but you don't know why. You don't know exactly what it is. Well, that's the same thing with portraits. You get a portrait slightly wrong, and everybody will go, "Oh, it sort of looks like him. It sort of looks like her." Trust me, I've done sketches. I did sketches all over Central Florida when I was younger. I did sketches in theme park resorts and in hotels, and people would sit down, and 15 minutes later I'd hand them a charcoal portrait, and I tried my best. I would say, I used to give myself a 90% success rate at capturing a likeness. 90%, that means 10% of the time the person or somebody related to the person looked at the sketch and said, "That doesn't look like you." And I wasn't doing caricatures. I wasn't doing the big nose and the goofy teeth. I wasn't doing that. I was trying to just do what I would do as a first. If I was actually doing a portrait of a person, I would do a sketch first, of course. So that's what I was really doing, was the first sketch. And I tried to explain that to them back in those days. Anyway, all of that headache doesn't happen with a landscape. Paint landscapes and you'll be happy. Bob Ross. I don't know that he said that, but Bob Ross is the perfect example of somebody who taught us that painting landscapes can make you happy. And you know what? Painting greeting cards can make somebody else happy just by giving them to them. All right, so let me show you how I did this one right now. All right, good morning again. Another morning, 6 o'clock on a Friday morning. And today is the first Friday of September, which means that this evening, Robin and I will be downtown in our little town of Ocala. We'll be sitting on the sidewalk outside of a chocolate shop, and we will be playing music. She plays the mandolin, and I play the accordion. I know that some of you know that I also have done some singing in my life. However, I don't do that on the sidewalk. I just play the accordion, and Robin plays the mandolin. It's all instrumental, and it's really fun, and it's not a show. It's more of ambient music. Ambient? I never know how to say that word. But anyway, good morning. Hey, I have another Kuretake set of paints I want to share with you. These were sent to me by Debra. Thank you again, Debra, for sending these paints. I used the other set for the last 2 days, and today I'm going to use this one for the first time. And what I like about what it says Japanese traditional paint for professional artists and crafters. It can be used as a gouache and watered down for use as a watercolor. Ideal for sketch, illustration, card making, and more. Yes, they even have card making on here. And I believe, this is called Gansai Tambi, and the company name is Kuretake, Kuretake, and I'm learning all this stuff from these packages and from what Debra sent me. I thought I saw on here, these are colors from nature. I'm not really sure if I saw that on here or somewhere else, maybe on the internet. All right, let me open it up and start using them. The first package I opened up, very vibrant, very rich in pigment, and I did discover that indeed they do have such richness to them that I absolutely agree that they can be used as gouache. And Debra told me that if I layer them, it'll make it more easy to layer, to put one color on top of another, which is why I use gouache. All right, there's a pretty colors, huh? And I learned my lesson last time. Don't turn it over. Just take the plastic cover off, and you'll be fine. And the reason you don't turn it over is because each one of these is a separate pan, you see? Isn't that cool? Now, if you're like me, you're going to keep it in there because then you know what it's called. Oh, no, you don't. Not in this case. Oh, no, that's called number 62. You just have to use your eye. Oh, turquoise blue. Turquoise blue is 62. Well, like with all of the colors I use, I really don't know the names of them. I usually just paint and worry about the rest. But in today's painting, it's especially unnecessary because today is an autumn painting. What I like about these colors also is that they dry with a bit of a gloss, a bit of a shine. And the Winsor Newton paints that I was using didn't do that. I say didn't with a little bit of a uplift to my voice because I'm thinking maybe they didn't do that because they weren't like professional grade. I honestly don't know. I really don't know. I'm very happy with the results that I've had with the Winsor Newton, and I don't have anybody complaining about the paintings that I've sent them on cards. But it is fun to learn new stuff, and it is fun to try new things. So, all right. So what I'm doing here is putting some water, but I'm not making it ultra wet. I'm just making it hopefully damp because I want to paint an autumn scene. I'm going to make an autumn sky with this color. I have to look at the back to see what it calls itself. What is my phone dinging again? Yellow ochre. Well, I should have guessed that. Yellow ochre. I could have guessed that. Look at that. Look at that. It's just right, so rich. It doesn't take much. Just going to spread it around, let the water do its thing. I just want a very light sky. A picture about walking home. I grew up in a suburban area, not an urban area. But there were some places near where I grew up that were very urban-like. Obviously, I lived outside of New York City. But even as close, now I don't know if it's still this way in 2024, but in the 60s, the 1960s, which seems like a million years ago, but I used to walk home from school, and there were some places along the way, like especially along, if you're from New York, I think it was Southern State Parkway, I think, but along the parkway, a busy road, there were some places that were still wooded, and you could walk through there from my school to my home. I could walk through these wooded areas, and the walks home were different for me. I loved them. All right, now I'm going to take this other color. What do you think this one's called? I'm going to guess this is called burnt sienna or something. Absolutely, it's called burnt sienna. See? I do know a little bit about that stuff. What is this one called? I'm hoping I have a burnt umber in here. Cobalt violet. Let's see, what's this one called? This one's called black. Oh, that might come in handy. I don't usually use black, but indigo. All right, well, that's good. Okay, I'm going to use those colors. Now, on the bottom here, I want leaves reflecting light, which means I got to have a lot of little spots. A lot of little spots. So I'm going to try to do a lot of little, make sure I leave a lot of little tiny areas of white that just, they're going to be reflecting the light off of the leaves. Hopefully that's what the impression we get from this. But I used to love walking home. I found $5 on my way walking home one time. Isn't it funny how you remember stuff like that? Like, you find $5. $5 is not going to make or break you, right? But I remember for some reason, I'm sure that I walked home alone a lot, and I also walked home with friends a lot. I don't remember walking with friends along the Southern State Parkway. I don't remember. I always remember that walk was always alone. I don't know why. But I did. I walked alone. And then the walking in the streets with the friends. I remember that a lot too. Walking with friends in streets. When you're a kid, you have friends from school who you don't really see outside of school. And that was the case a lot of times. I had a friend whose father and mother owned a delicatessen. And when we got to be teenagers, some of the other kids became friends with my friend, with him, not with me. Well, they were friends of mine, I guess, but they were mostly friends with him. You'll see they were mostly interested in beer, because the deli sold beer, and my friend could get beer, even though I don't think anybody was really enforcing the age limit on beer back in those days like they do now. But anyway, kids weren't supposed to have beer, especially we were teenagers, like maybe 14 or so. And so they would want to drink beer, and of course they weren't allowed to drink beer from their parents, and so they would sneak bottles of beer and carry them on their walks and at night. Not to school, but I'm talking about like if we got together at night, they'd want to walk the streets and drink beer. Wasn't that crazy? And I hated it. I didn't like it at all. I hated sneaking around. I was afraid my father was going to kill me. And I wasn't drinking the beer. I would pour it out when they weren't looking, a little bit at a time, to make it look like the bottle was getting emptier and emptier. I am not lying to you. I promise you I'm telling you the truth. And I just didn't like the whole thing. And I felt like I was walking with a bunch of, do you remember the word hoodlum? I felt like I was walking with a bunch of hoodlums. And I just didn't like it. It just wasn't for me. What color did I say this was? Oh, that's indigo. That's right. That's what I said that was. Well, I'm going to dip into the black a little bit. Get some darkness. Oh, look how black that black is. Wow. That is really dense black. Gotta be careful with that. It's working though. It's working with the burnt sienna. I don't need lots of little lights. Just mixing the burnt sienna and the black. Oh, that's a nice color. Hey, the burnt sienna and the black almost looks like a burnt umber or a raw umber. I never know the difference. So anyway, my friends, my friend whose father owned the deli, he became a very popular kid because of the deli. He was always my friend, and when he was my friend from younger years, we'd go to his house and play board games. That was our level of that's how uncool I was. We just played board games. No offense to anybody who loves board games. I still do. I still like board games. Alright, so you want to hear more about that era of part of my life? Since I'm in my brain, I'm back there right now. So I didn't like walking the streets at night with the hoodlums. And I separated myself from them. I never went out with them again after a while. They caused some trouble. They were lighting firecrackers in the streets, and I don't know. I just didn't like that whole scene. So I didn't stick around. I went home and I basically was by myself. And I did art like I do now. Still do art. But I also picked up the guitar and taught myself how to play. I had accordion lessons when I was younger. My parents paid for accordion lessons, which I'm forever grateful for, because it taught me so much about music theory, and I still use that to this day. I use that information that I learned. I still remember my music teacher's name. It was Carl. He was from Italy, and I loved the Italian song. So when I broke away from my friends, from my teenage acquaintances, they weren't even friends. Not really, not for me. They were. I know if they happen to be listening to this, they're gonna say, "What? You weren't my friend?" Well, I don't think so. I mean, you were more interested in hanging out with the beer. That's what you were more interested in. But anyway, that was then. This is now. So I would. I picked up the guitar. I learned how to play some Beatles songs and some Simon and Garfunkel and stuff like that. And then that kind of started me down that whole path, which I kind of loved it. And you know, when you're young, it's a good thing. The music is a really wonderful thing. All right, now these little dots are going to shrink, even though they're not that big right now. But what I want to do first is I want to take, now that that's drying over there, I want to get some very, very hazy, little hazy trees in the background. Not sure what color to use for that. Maybe I can use a little bit of this burnt sienna, put it in the background. I'll lighten it with the water. Make it lighter. It's still bleeding, so it must be still a little on the wet side there. So later on in my musical youth, I had another friend who was actually a friend of my brother's. So he was 2 years younger than me. And I came up to my bedroom was upstairs, and that's kind of where we hung out when we were kids, was in our bedrooms, you know. So I went upstairs one time, and he was playing my guitar, and he was afraid that I was going to get mad at him because he was younger than me or whatever, you know how kids are. So I said, no, I said, it's okay. I said, do you play guitar? And he said, no. Of course, I could tell he couldn't, but anyway, so I showed him something real simple. I showed him I can't remember, like a one string, something on one string or two strings. And I had two guitars. So I said, now you play that, and I'll play this. And I remember what song it was. It was Dear Prudence from the Beatles. Do you remember Dear Prudence? I used to love Dear Prudence. I still do. I haven't heard it in a long time. But so I taught him how to play that little riff at the beginning of Dear Prudence. And then I would sing it. And I would say, why don't you sing it too? And he said, I don't know how to sing. And I said, yes, you do. Everybody knows how to sing. And I remember his answer, or his response. He said, they do? Everybody can sing? And I said, yeah. And that was kind of a vote of confidence from the older guy. That was me. I was the older guy. I'm still the older guy. And anyway, so we had a duo for a while. Even after I moved to Florida, I was back in New York all the time. And we actually had a duo. We actually had gigs. And we actually played, gosh, everywhere. We really did. We played so many places. Now I'm just trying to graduate this down to more of an orange. Grab some of that. So we played a lot of bars and lounges and nightclubs. I remember at that time we would make a big deal if an establishment called itself a nightclub. The truth is, there wasn't much difference between a nightclub and a bar. There wasn't much. But we for some reason thought if it's called a nightclub, it must be a fancier place. And it gave us a little bit more clout. We're playing at a nightclub. Isn't that funny? We're playing at a nightclub. Oh, yeah. So we had our guitars. We got some amplifiers. And we got a keyboard. And he learned how to play the keyboard. And we did that for several years. And then he went to college. And well, we went to California for a little while. But after all that, he went to college. And I continued to play. And I play all over the place. I played colleges. I didn't actually go to college. Well, I take that back. I did go for a little while. I definitely did, but mostly I didn't. But I went to a lot of colleges playing music, and that was a lot of fun. I drove myself all over the East Coast, from Miami or Key West, I think, probably as far south as I went, and then up to the northern states on the East Coast, like Connecticut was the farthest I went, I guess. Yeah, I booked myself. I learned how to do all that stuff, who to talk to and who does the hiring and all that stuff. And if you're interested, it's the student activities director is usually who does it, at least back then. In fact, I wrote a book about it. How to Make Money as a Touring Musician, I think is what it's called. And it still sells. I see every once in a while I get a little royalty from Amazon for that. Look at this. Look at this area right here. This has to be careful. Let's keep this a little bit reflective there. And then this is going to be that almost where there's like tire tracks, tire ruts, where a car has left its impression in the ground. Alright, now let's get some more of this orange here. Let's lighten it up. Let's lighten it up a lot. This is very pigmented, very rich paint. Alright, let me try to redefine this edge here. These background trees, I want them more definitive. Yeah, that looks good. That looks like distant trees, right? Put a little bit of orange right here. Get some of that orange over here too. keep that light in there. Got a little bit of a cold going on. Yes, these paints are super rich. Super rich. Kuretake, if you didn't see the beginning. Kuretake. A new thing. I went to Hobby Lobby yesterday with Robin, and we were looking for these. They were not there. I don't know if probably a full-fledged art store. I know Hobby Lobby is not a full-fledged art store, but they didn't have them in Hobby Lobby. So there's a few things I've learned about from you guys that I've looked for in Hobby Lobby, and they're not there. But I love Hobby Lobby. In fact, guess what? I think they're building one near us, so we might not have to drive all the way into town anymore for some of the art supplies we use. For the longest time, when I was just doing children's books, I didn't use any art supplies. I did everything on my iPad, on my Procreate. I did a picture of Jesus on my Procreate the other day, and a lot of people want a copy of that. So, I don't know if I ever told you that I share some of my paintings for free. Not the physical paintings, but like the digital files. So if you want to print your own, some people want them, especially the ones like the one of Jesus. People like those things, and the pastor at the church, in fact, asked if he could use it this Sunday, so I sent it to him. Right now, my paper looks like a mess, doesn't it? It's just a mess. Just a mess. Poppa, you're a mess. There we go. A little bit. Now we can add a little bit more darkness here, I think. Get this close area here darken. These little spots of reflective light. Just to make sure we don't cover it up totally. Let this gradually work into that really light area right there. Let's get some of those deep oranges in there. Looks like a mess. It always looks like a mess. Every time I do a painting, it looks like a mess. Alright, now let's see if we can make this look like something other than a mess. Get some of these colors right here. into that mix. It's like gouaching. It sure is like gouaching away and being reactivated when it dries. It's like watercolor. Reactivates when it dries. Alright, let's spread out some of these orange colors. Keep them very super light. Super light right there. Okay. All right. Now let's take some of this and bring it up here. And up here. Let's start to fill in some of these areas here. Let's pick it up and put it back down. Put it all down there. There's the edge of the card right there, so I can now you see it's starting to happen right now. You can see it. The autumn leaves, the colors of autumn. Beautiful. I can't wait to go to Gatlinburg in October, next month. Next month we'll be up there, and it probably will have foliage, probably will have it, right? I hope it's not already done. I don't see foliage much because I'm in Florida. I always like the idea of going on a train ride to see foliage. Well, today I'm going there by way of the painting. Today I'm painting my way into foliage. Darker right there. Some darker over here too. Lots of leaves. Oops. Whoops. Wants to pop out of there. Right now I want to see if I can make a little fence line in there. Let me get a small brush. Nice tiny little brush. And I'm going to use that black paint. I'm going to start, let's see. So we're going to pretend it goes this way. So we have a post here. I always like the idea of putting vertical lines in a painting because they add something to it. They add something to it even if it's not defined. In this case, it is defined. Obviously, it's going to be some kind of a fence that the walkway has along its side. Make them thinner and shorter as you go into the distance. Get little fences, and each post is a little bit closer to each other. One bigger one right here. Maybe that's where the fence stops or starts. It goes all the way down there. You don't really know where it goes. There might be some hint of other pieces of fence here. I heard somebody say one time that they don't like painting fences in landscapes. So if fences is something you really don't want to paint and you want to give it a little bit more character, then just paint some vertical lines that are not defined. I know that sounds weird, vertical lines that are not defined, but just put them in the paint, almost like an abstract part of a painting. Maybe you could blur it out a little bit. Well, now we have to do the trees because the trees are the star of the show. So let's start with one. I could use a little bit bigger brush, I think. Use a little bit bigger brush. Up here I need to use the orange for the trees, so I'm going to put some trees here. I like the way it pulls the orange out of it. Get a bit of orange in here. Some of these orange areas of the tree. Lots of limbs. Oh, my chair just made it sound like a horse. Alright, let's get this side over here. Let's get a big old tree right here. Big old tree right there. Put another big one right here. Right there. A little bit closer to the camera, to the foreground. Just let it bend over. You can make some spotty parts to make it look like it's hidden by the leaves. Let's get a little bit of that orange here. Just adding a little texture to that part right there. I like the idea that you can add color on top of color. That's a really nice feature of these paints. Look, I'm able to add a little bit of red to this dark area here. Yeah, you couldn't do that with just regular. The Winsor Newtons would not be able to do that. Alright, that looks pretty nice. I think I'm liking the way it's looking. My walk home. This is not too different from a walk you might see around here, except that you wouldn't see the foliage like that. Not around here. But just drive a little further north into Georgia, for example, you'll see a lot of this stuff. Boy, Georgia had a horrible story yesterday. A school shooting. I just hate those stories. I don't know what's going on. I think there's so many movies that just show shooting so much, and I think the video games were very violent. I don't know if that's part of it or not, but I don't know. But Georgia is a beautiful place. You still see my fence there, right? The fence still has a presence. Now I'm taking a risk by doing these little fine limbs with this brush. I probably should use the other brush for this. So the fact that I can add color on top of color definitely makes me want to work this a little bit more. Just add a little bit more texture, I think, to these background trees, these background colors. Well, it went from looking like a mess to looking a little bit more organized, a little bit more like a painting of something recognizable. Someplace you'd want to walk through. I even have sound effects. I have a crow. Did you hear him outside? What time is it? It's 6:50. Excuse me for coughing. Well, I'm going to see if I can take some of this yellow and put some light on top of the dark, just to see. A little bit, yeah. Yeah, it's not bad. Yeah, that's pretty good. That is pretty good. Wow, look at that. I don't know if you can see it or not, but I can do it. All right, I'm going to take a clean brush and see if I can do some, because there is white in this kit. Let's get some of that white. See if we can put some more dots in here. Absolutely you can. Oh, I like that. It's kind of like working with a hybrid between acrylic and watercolor. I do think I'm probably done, but I'm just having fun. I think I'm done, but I'm having fun. I put a little bit of light over here. And maybe, probably some shadows from these trees and these fences. Some of the light is definitely dappled here. Okay, I think I'm done. I think I'm going to call it done. Well, there we go. There's our painting done with the Kuretake paints. The first time I'm using them, this tray of them. It's still a little bit wet. I'm going to fold it anyway, see how it looks. Without turning the camera off. How about that? Wow, I kind of like that. Look at it. Look it. Look. Looks like an autumn walk home. It's a walk home in autumn. I do see something I want to fix right there. Right there. Lift it up a little bit. In fact, if I can lift it up a little bit here too. Yeah, just smudge it around a little bit. Yeah, I think that's good. I think that's what I wanted to do. Just a little smudging. A little smudging, a smidgen of a smudging. Alright, well there we go. Our autumn walk home as we enter into the 6th day of September. Alright, I'll talk to you later. Bye.